Dobroveče, poštovani gledaoci. Gost večerašnjeg Biznis ekskluziva je dr. Marshall Goldsmith, najuticajniji mislilac na svijetu u oblasti liderstva. Autor je ili editor 32 knjige, uključujući i bestseller Ono što vas je dovelo ovdje, neće vas odvesti tamo, koja je prevedena na naš jezik i promovisana u sklopu posjete dr. Goldsmitha. Dr. Goldsmith je dobitnik mnogih nagrada i priznanja, a radio je sa direktorima najvećih kompanija svijeta i njihovim menadžment timovima. Crnogorski i regionalni direktori i menadžeri i oni koji to žele da postanu imali su prilike da ga slušaju na cjelodnevnom seminaru. Mr. Marshall, the seminar has just been completed. What are your impressions? Are you satisfied with the interaction and the questions? And can you tell me how the audience, that includes directors and managers of Montenegrin and regional companies, reacted to your exercises today?
Oh, it's very positive. The group was very lively. My class is very interactive, so it's not like an all-day lecture. They actually do all kinds of activities, talk to each other, practice coaching, and it was great. We had simultaneous translations, and they had a young woman help me with the translation when I did it myself. She was wonderful. So we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and my part is very lively. The class is fun. People laughed a lot, and there was a lot of interaction and dialogue.
Let's explain to our viewers why successful people must have coaches. And could you explain us the term of coaching?
It's interesting. My job as a coach is that I only work with successful people. And my job is helping successful leaders achieve positive long-term change in behavior for themselves, their people, and their teams. So I'm not an part of the business. I'm an expert on the leadership behavior part. Why do people have coaches? Well, in my coaching, I either coach the CEO or the could-be CEO of huge companies. Why? Sometimes the board asks me to coach the CEO. Sometimes the CEO asks me to coach himself or herself because they want to be a good role model. And then sometimes I'm asked by the CEO or the board to coach a future CEO who is really good, needs to make just a little changes in behavior to move to that next level. So those are the various reasons that I do my job.
It is very interesting how and why you started doing this job. Could you share that with our viewers, and if you could mention some most significant details from your career that you like to remember?
Well, two ways I got into this work. First, I met a very famous man, Dr. Paul Hersey, who was a teacher of executive education. And he got double booked, 2 places in the same day. He called me, he said, "Can you do what I do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I need help. Can you do this?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I'll pay you $1,000 for 1 day." That was 36 years ago. I was 28 years old. $1,000 for 1 day to a kid 36 years ago was a lot of money. What did I say? Sign me up. I did a program for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, very conservative people. They were very angry when I showed up because they expected him. Yet I got ranked first place of all his 2 weeks' worth of teachers. So they were happy. He called up expecting them to be mad, and they said, "Well, we were very angry, but this guy came in first, send him back." He calls me up, he said, "Do you want to do this again?" I said, "Yes." That's how I got into the speaking part of my business. Coaching, I also got into by accident. I met the CEO of a big company. We were talking. He said, "I have this young man working for us. Young, smart, dedicated, hardworking jerk." He said, "It would be worth a fortune to me if this guy would change his behavior." So again, I hear the term fortune. I said, "I like fortunes. Perhaps I could help him." He said, "I doubt it." I said, "Maybe I could help him." He said, "I don't think so." Then I came up with an idea. I said, "I will work with him for a year. If he gets better, pay me. Does not get better, free." He said, "Sold." All of my work in coaching is on a pay-for-results basis. I don't get paid if my clients don't get better. Better is not judged by me or them, it's judged by everyone around them. There's always a way you can test if someone believes what they're saying. One question. You know what the question is? Do you want to bet on it? If they say, "I believe it, but I don't want to bet," you know what you learned? They don't believe it. They say, "Here's the money," they believe it. Simple test. I always bet on what I do.
Can we mention some most significant details, maybe some companies and CEO?
Of course. I mean, I can talk about the people I've worked with over the years. Some of the people I'm working with now one is Dr. Jim Kim, a wonderful man. Dr. Jim Kim is the new president of the World Bank. is really dedicated to saving the world. Dr. Raj Shah, the head of the United States International Agency for International Development, I'm his coach. Dr. John Noseworthy, the head of the Mayo Clinic. Mark Tursick, head of the Nature Conservancy. Over the years, I worked with Alan Mulally. Alan is the CEO of Ford, who is in the paper for being the next potential CEO of Microsoft. Ian Reed is the CEO of Pfizer. J.P. Garnier was the CEO of Glaxo. So I've worked with a lot of important people in very different industries. And the people I work with, this is not a secret.
Yeah, we know. But how it looked like? Can we explain?
How do I coach people?
Yes.
That's very simple.
How?
Let's imagine that you're the person I'm coaching.
Okay.
To start with, there's no arguing in my coaching. Everything is either required or optional. If it's required, there's no use arguing. Because if you don't want to do it, I just don't work with you. Everything else is optional. You do it if you feel like it. So the required part is you have to get confidential feedback from everyone around you. You have to pick important behavior to improve. You and your boss, if you're not the CEO, have to agree these are the right behaviors and the right people. You follow up on a regular basis. You say, I've got this feedback, here's what I feel good about, here's what I want to change. And then you follow up with me on a regular basis. And then we actually measure, do you get better at the appropriate behavior as judged by the appropriate people over time? And if you do that, and the company says it's worthwhile, I get paid.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's what I do.
You mentioned feedback, but could you explain us the concept of feed forward and its advantages in relation to feedback?
Yes, now feedback is fine to help us figure out where we are. Feed forward helps us move to the future. In feed forward, I did feed forward with a group today. They loved it. To set up feed forward, I say we're now going to participate in an exercise called feed forward. You're in two roles. Role number one, learn as much as I can. So I say, are there smart people in the room? Oh, yes. Would you like to learn from these smart people? Yes. Two, help as much as I can. Then I say, are there nice people in the room? Yes. Would you like to help these nice people? Yes. So you're learning, which is good, or you're helping, which is good. In feed forward, everybody picks something to improve, and whatever they pick has to come from their heart. I don't make people try to change things. I help people change what they think is important. Then each person says, my name is, I want to get better at. And the idea is no feedback about the past, only ideas for the future. We spend too much time talking about the past anyway. So no talking about the past. And then two, you can't judge ideas. When people give you ideas, you can't say, bad idea, good idea. You say, thank you. Now, I'm a Buddhist. This is a Buddhist exercise. Buddha said, only do what I teach if it works for you. Doesn't work for you? Don't do it. In Feed Forward, we ask for ideas. We treat the idea like a gift. If people give us a gift, should we say, stinky gift, bad gift, I do not like your gift? No. What do you say? Thank you. If you want to use the gift, use it. You don't want to use the gift, put it in the closet. And if you have the gift, repackage it and give it to your mother-in-law. Who cares? You just say thank you. So people say, my name is, I want to get better at, they get ideas, they give the other people ideas, they run around the room, and they talk to as many people as they can.
But someone has to make the decision, is the idea bad or good?
No, you don't say the idea is bad or good, you just say thank you. In your own mind, you can do that, but you don't say it to the other person.
Why?
Let's take the people I coach. Look who these people are. There's no arguing. If I let those people argue with me, what % of my life would be spent in an argument? And the people I coach, are they used to losing arguments? How about winning arguments? They like winning them. We don't argue at all. The cost to my clients of hiring me is their time. I mean, one of my new clients is Ian Reed, the CEO of Pfizer. It's a $200 billion company. What's his time worth? He doesn't need me to waste his time. I'm not there to waste time. I'm there to get results in the least amount of time. So in my coaching, there's no debating, there's no arguing. You either want to do it or you don't. The required stuff you have to do, everything else, do it if you want, don't if you don't. I teach people to learn to listen and say thank you without having to judge what everyone says and prove they're wrong. It's a great discipline. At the end of the exercise, I say, how did you like this exercise? People say positive, useful, helpful, or fun. Then I say, what's the last word you think to describe feedback? They say fun. Well, the reason it's fun is it's focused on what you can do, not what you can't. It's focused on the future, not the past. And there's no judging or critiquing, so people feel free to say what they want.
Do you think that the job and your coaching and everything that we talk about should be fun or funnier than it's
Fun
now?
for me. See, I'm going to share something with you. It's going to be in my next book. I hope it's okay I share it. See, I've done some pretty extensive research, and you know what my research has proven? We will all be equally dead. I don't know if you knew this, but yes, we're all going to be equally dead here. So let's have a little fun.
Yeah, that's great for everybody. Definitely.
Yeah, we're all going to die anyway, so you might as well have a good time here, right? Yeah, why be miserable?
So let's talk now a little bit about leaders. What are the problems that come along with the leadership position? What is what we need to stop with? And in what manner should a new leader adapt to that position?
Well, first I'll deal with what to stop. I was interviewed in the Harvard Business Review and asked, what is the number one problem of all the successful people you've worked with over the years? What is their number one problem? My answer? Winning too much. What does this mean? If it's important, we want to win. Meaningful, win. Critical, win. Trivial, win. Not worth it, win anyway. Winners love winning. Everyone I coach is a winner. It is hard for winners not to constantly win. Now, I have a case study I used with my clients that they almost all fail. You'll probably fail this case study too. Almost everybody fails.
Why?
Here's the case study. Are you ready?
Yes.
You want to go to dinner at restaurant X. Your husband, wife, partner, friend wants to go to dinner at restaurant Y. You have an argument. You go to Y. Not your choice. Food tastes awful. Service is terrible. Option A, critique the food. Point out our partner was wrong. This mistake could have been avoided if only you listened to me. Option B, shut up, eat the stupid food, try to enjoy it, and have a nice evening. What would I do? What should I do? Almost every one of my clients, what would I do? Critique the food. What should I do? Shut up. It's hard for successful people not to constantly win. I have another case that's even worse. I was teaching a class. Here's the next case. You have a hard day at work, a hard day. You go home. Your husband, wife, friend, or partner's there. The other person says, I had such a hard day today. I had such a tough day. And we reply, you had a hard day. You had a hard day.
What about me?
What about me? Do you have any idea how much I had to put up with today? Do you think you had a hard day? We are so competitive, we have to prove we're more miserable than the people we live with. I gave this example at a class at Dartmouth College. This guy in the back raised his hand. He said, I did that last week. I said, what happened? He said, my wife looked at me. She said, honey, you just think you have had a hard day. It's not over.
But what is the right reaction when someone comes and say, I had a hard day at work?
Well, let me tell you, I got an email, about 4 months ago that made me feel good for a whole week. The email said, I know you don't remember me. I was in your class 5 years ago. And the man in the email said, I just wanted to send an email to you today and say thank you. He said, yesterday my wife called me up on the phone and she was very sad. And she talked about what a hard day she'd had. And he said, I was just getting ready to point out how her problems paled in significance to my own. He said, for some reason, I remembered what you said 5 years ago. He said, I just listened to my wife and I said, I love you and thank you for all the sacrifices you've made for our family. He said, I spent $25, I bought flowers. I went home, I gave my wife the flowers and I said, I love you, thank you for being a great wife. He said, that was the best $25 I've ever spent. Thank you.
That's a great story.
Yeah, what's the right answer? Before you win the battle, ask a question. What am I winning? What am I winning?
Let's talk a little bit about Montenegro. We have a common situation that the Montenegrins have leading positions outside Montenegro, and within the borders of our country, people who are on leading positions are imported. Should a leader be created in the country and in the domestic company, or should we resolve that by bringing someone with experience from another country?
That's not a right answer to that. To the degree you can develop people in a country, you should. On the other hand, if you don't have someone, you don't have someone. You can also ask a different question. What about the people in the country who you do develop, who do a great job of providing leadership here? Then should they be able to go up somewhere else? And the answer is, of course. So they could leave here and go to another country and lead a bigger operation. One of the pluses and minuses you have here is it's a small country. I mean, the plus is it's easier to be a big frog in a small pond. The minus is you're a big frog in a small pond. So you can't have it both ways. The advantage is a lot of opportunities, a lot of chance to be somebody. The disadvantage is it's not so big. So you can't live in a small country and a big country at the same time. There are kind of some inherent pluses and minuses of living in a small country, which I'm sure you know better than I do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But what do you think? Is better to live in a small or in a big country?
Neither good nor bad, just different. And also depends on the country. I mean, there's some small countries that are hellholes that nobody would want to live in, and there's some small countries that are beautiful. The richest countries in the world are small countries. If you look at Liechtenstein, or if you look at Monaco, places like that, they're really nice. They're small. They're nice. There are other small countries that are terrible, though.
Let's talk about education a little bit. In your opinion, what are the deficiencies of formal education and how should we compensate those deficiencies? I think that there is similar deficiencies in every country in formal education.
Yeah, what I teach is more like trade school than graduate school. What I teach is not really taught very much in formal education. Mine is very practical. It's how do you lead people. And most of the time, it's not really taught to students very much. And even if it is taught, unless they're in some sort of leadership role, it's sort of abstract or theoretical. It's not too practical. When you deal with people on a day-to-day basis, it's much more real and practical. So I think there's so much you can learn in school. In my own life, I mean, if you look at my books, very little of what I write about I learned in school. I learned mostly through coaching CEOs. I didn't learn it in school. So there's good things you can learn in school, good background and experience. On the other hand, day-to-day practical leadership stuff, you're not going to learn too much of that in school. You have to learn that just through doing it.
One cannot overlook the economic crisis. It seems that in companies, training of employees and investing in them is the first item in the rationalization plan. How you comment on that?
That's typically not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's typically not a good idea because what happens is many times when times get worse, leaders don't have the courage to make hard decisions. So they do these dumb things like 10% across the board cuts. Well, that means you're cutting the best part 10% and the worst part 10%. That means you're cutting the things you should invest in 10% and the things you should get rid of 10%. I think it's always better if leaders make hard decisions when times are tough and say, what is growth and what isn't growth? And there are going to be areas where you do need to invest in training, you need to invest in R&D, and cutting those can be a huge mistake. And it's often done in this sort of knee-jerk, just let's say cut 10% or cut training or whatever. It's very easy for a corporation to make numbers in the short term. Cut all R&D, cut all training. You can just go through a pretty much standard list. Anybody can look good for a year. The problem is you do that 2 or 3 years, the company dies.
Can you tell to our viewers what are your plans in the next period? We heard a new book. What else?
I've got a new book coming out. My next book is called Triggers. It's about behavioral triggers. It's going to be published by Crown Publishing. I got a wonderful advance. And my biggest selling book is called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. That book has been just translated here, the 30th language. So this is my 30th language, bestseller in 12 countries. So that book is hugely popular, and it's about interpersonal relationships. My second biggest selling book is called Mojo. That's about intrapersonal relationships. It's much more philosophical and looking at life. And my new book is about triggers. It's about our relationship with our external environment. And it's about how the world changes us and how we change the world. And the book says we don't totally create the world ourselves. You can go to motivational speeches all you want to, but there is a real world out there. You can't wish it away. On the other hand, we do have some say in how the world is created. So the book talks about the ongoing dance we have with the world around us, how we constantly create it and it constantly creates us, and it gives people ideas on how they can do a good job of the best we can do of creating a positive world for ourselves.
You have so much energy. How?
Well, you know, I'm a Buddhist. And one thing I like to do before I work is I have a Buddhist chant. And I find this chant gives me so much energy. I did it today before I taught the class here in Montenegro. Would you like to learn my little Buddhist chant?
Yes, of course.
Okay, you have to do your hands like this. I want you to breathe. Ah. And the chant goes like this. Ah. There's no business like show business, like no business I know.
Great. Thanks a lot.
And when I coach my executives,
Yeah.
I always use this as an example. Sometimes they whine and complain. Do you know what I tell them? Have you ever been to a Broadway play? And I say, of course. I said, did the young people out there complain and say, my foot hurts? My aunt died last week? No. Every night they go out and work hard. They never complain. You know why? It's showtime. Then I say, the kid is making 1/100th of what you're making. 1/100th of what you're making. If that kid can go out there night after night after night and work hard and never complain,
You can do it too.
so can you.
Yes.
Showtime!
Showtime. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you. Thank you very much.
Poštovani gledalci, nadam se da vam je bilo zanimljivo kao i meni. Bio je to dr. Marshall Goldsmith, najuticajniji mislilac na svijetu u oblasti liderstva. S vama smo ponovo naredne subote u 20:45.